Hello and welcome to episode number 1 of Pause for Popcorn Season 2, hereafter simply referred to as Pause for Popcorn. If you're a fan, then welcome back. I know it's been a long-ass wait for a new episode. And if you're a first-timer, I'll give you the quick rundown. Pause for Popcorn is a movie and television podcast under the SDGC umbrella. That's our parent podcast that discusses all things video games. Every single podcast is archived on our YouTube channel, and you can find us on audio platforms like SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple iTunes, and more. Now, as I just alluded to, we've recorded sporadic episodes throughout the last year and a half as we tried to figure out what we want the show to be and struggled to find the time to record consistently. I'm very happy to announce that we're going to hit the reset button in 2019. We're going to be producing a ton more stuff for all of you to enjoy, and we're going to be exploring new and exciting ways to do that. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. And I'm joined by my co-host, Justin. How's it going?
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Glad to be back. Sorry, taking a swig of Coke. I figured we'd start the show off, to spring this on you. Maybe just talk about something we watched recently, just to get back in the groove of things. Doesn't have to be anything new. Anything you watched in a theater, on TV? Like, what have you been up to?
Well, last night, actually, I watched Revenge, which is a French movie. It's in the US, I know it's streaming exclusively on Shudder, which is a horror streaming service that I highly recommend if you're a horror fan. There's some really good stuff on there. And you can access it like through the VNV app, which is made by Crunchyroll. It's a really nice streaming app. But yeah, so I watched that last night, and it's really cool. Like it's a tough watch. Really violent. Sexual assault is a major part of it, and it's pretty brutal in that movie, but it's probably the most effective like woman getting punishing the men that wronged her movie that I've seen since like the original Kill Bill.
Oh wow, that's high praise.
Yeah, it's really good. Like it's her stuck in the desert with these guys that are out hunting. Mm-hmm. These three guys that left her for dead, and then she survives, and it's her surviving in the wilderness and then tracking them down. It's a really great movie.
Cool.
Beautifully filmed. Really neat.
Not a feel good film though.
Oh, absolutely not. Like it's definitely not the movie. I would not recommend that movie for anyone if you're sensitive to
Is it just the violence
and sexual assault?
Okay. Yeah.
It's very it's very disturbing quite a bit, but it's really well executed, and they play with like a lot of typical like Hollywood sexualization, mm-hmm. and like kind of flip it around as the movie goes on to make kind of make it a statement about what they're portraying, and the men and women in the film. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it a whole lot.
Yeah, that sounds good. I don't know. I like horror films, but I got to be in the right state of mind to watch them, or else they like really fuck me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
about you? Not a lot worth noting. I watched Solo again last night, and you know what? That's just a fun movie. Like it's I don't know. It's not. Alden's performance is weird. Like half the time, I feel like he's doing a really good, just his own take on Han Solo. And then other times there's like little bits where I'm just like, okay, he's trying really hard right now to do a specific Harrison Ford impression. Yeah. And those really stand out. But when he's doing his own thing, I actually thought he was pretty good. It's just, there's some little bits of awkwardness. He tries to do a certain look or say something a certain
Yeah,
way. I'm like, you don't need to do this. Like, you don't look anything like Harrison, and that's fine. So just, and again, that's,
yeah.
I don't mean to put that on him. I don't know what type of direction he was given,
Well, I
or
mean,
what.
it's just that's got to be one of the hardest roles to get. Like
Mhm.
Han Solo is such an iconic character, and
Not
like
specifically Han Solo, Harrison Ford
Harrison
as Han
Ford
Solo.
as Han Solo, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and like that had to be tough to take on. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not as high on the movie as you are. I think it's all right. I didn't really like the first. I thought the first 20 minutes are real bad, and then it kind of just peters out in like the last half hour or so. But like, I think that middle section is
Hmm.
actually a good time.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. I thought the start and ending were strong, and the middle was where it lost me a little bit. But I will
Oh wow,
say
really?
I was a lot warmer to it on my second viewing than the first viewing. Maybe it's I mean I didn't go in with high expectations obviously the first time, but and I don't I'm not saying it's a good movie. It's just there's specific parts of that entertain me. I thought the kind of chase sequences in the opening were actually pretty well done. Um and the yeah, just the middle part, kind of the I can't remember the name of the planet. Everything basically after the train heist, which happens pretty quickly, up till the Kessel Run. There's about maybe 20, 25 minutes in there where I thought it was a little slow, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
enjoyed that part, and I loved Lando in the movie. Like
Yeah.
Donald Glover as Lando is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He was almost too good though, especially alongside Alden as
Yeah, I know.
Han Solo. Like he really kind of steals the show for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. So we'll get on to the main show then, where we're going to be talking about spoilers. This is a heated topic that people get really pissed off about sometimes. So I thought we'd just start the show by talking about. You can go first. Basically, how do we define a spoiler? What is a spoiler to each of us? And then we'll argue about who's right, I guess. So, what would you classify as a spoiler? How would you describe it?
Oh, see, this is hard for me to answer directly because it kind of depends on the movie. For me. So I'll just give like a high level
Yeah.
definition first, and then I'll unpack it more later. So like I think it's just um, talking about a critical moment that would undermine my enjoyment of the movie, basically. Um, oh, I have a lot to say. Like, go on to like your definition, and then we'll unpack
Okay.
it.
All right. All right. So there's a lot of trains of thought on this, and like I hear, I'm gonna just jump into some examples, and then you can use your own examples because we kind of have to do
Okay.
that. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, the sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming, Far From Home. Uh, you know,
Yeah, this is a weird situation.
yeah, but regardless of all that stuff, there's some set photos been going around, and some people have shared them with me directly. And there's like a new Spider-Man suit, which shouldn't be surprising because like superheroes get new suits in every movie. But
Well, I think
I
they have officially revealed that. I think that ended
okay,
up. I think Tom Holland ended up going because I didn't see any of the set
yeah,
photos, but I saw it when Tom Holland
you're
went
right, you're
on
right.
one of the late night talk shows.
Hmm. So, and regardless if that's official or not, what I'm getting at is I don't want to see that new suit unless it's officially unveiled. I enjoy the surprise of seeing new suits, but I don't consider that a spoiler. A suit, like, unless that suit has some very specific meaning to the plot or to the character development, if it's just a new suit for the sake of a new suit, like another 500th armor for Iron Man, like, those aren't spoilers, even though I may not want that information or want to see it. And I like to draw the line between what I simply just would prefer not to know and what I actually consider a spoiler. So what I would say,
Okay,
uh,
that's that. See, that's fair. That kind of gets into some stuff I was going to say, like, but yeah, that's definitely a fair
yeah,
way
so
of.
like the best way I can define it for myself is a spoiler would be, like you said, a critical element specifically for the plot or a character in the movie that, like you said, would undermine our enjoyment of it, which is a little bit subjective. But I would also usually say it's something that you are not intended to know or is intended to be, I guess, a surprise. Like, it's something
Yeah.
that the movie builds toward, and is revealed. It's not just something that happens. Like that's the best way I can put it. I think it should be something significant and something that is intentionally obscured or held off until a certain point in the movie.
Hmm. See, I personally think that stuff I don't want to see,
Mm-hmm.
like I would consider that a spoiler, but like it's stuff I also know other people wouldn't. Like I like that's definitely
That's the
kind of
problem, right?
like
Because everyone has
yeah,
like a different line.
yeah. Everyone has a different kind of threshold for it. So like some people, obviously wouldn't care about seeing that new Spider-Man suit. I saw it because it was officially revealed, but I
Mm-hmm.
avoided, the set photos. But like even sometimes I feel like marketing goes too far in showing stuff I don't want to see, or
Mm-hmm.
people go too far in dissecting trailers. Um, Hence
Yeah,
why we've had more and more trailers just intentionally editing their like
yeah.
sequences because like they're
People
meant
just
to
piece together
be
the whole movie from it, right?
yeah, because they're not meant to be, hey, we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna slowly unveil the whole plot to you before the movie's out. It's meant to get people that wouldn't see the movie to go
Mm-hmm.
see the movie. Um,
Yeah, and on that topic, like I think myself before I've said if they show it in a trailer or official marketing, it's not a spoiler. I don't think that's the case. I think
yeah,
because
no,
the marketing departments are separate from the directorial and crew team that actually make the movie, and they will as far as I know, most of the time they have free reign to basically put whatever the hell they want in the
yeah,
trailer.
and like some movies have had ending shots in the trailer.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is actually one I remember distinctly. Like it sets up, the Rhino battle with, Spider-Man jumping up and swinging around the manhole cover at him.
Right,
That's
but
literally the final shot of
but
the
out of
movie, and it
context
was
though, that's not
yeah.
really
But the thing is, because I had seen that trailer so many times
okay.
beforehand, like I was waiting for that scene, and the fact that it ended up being the final shot of the movie, and we
Yeah.
didn't get that actual fight, like
Yeah.
it was just one of the things that I mean, I don't like that movie.
Yeah. That's
That's
fair.
just one of the things that just pissed me off even
Uh-huh.
more about that movie. Um, there's that trailer that went out recently with for A Dog's Purpose, or no, A Dog's Way Home.
Yeah.
Was that in the Canadian theaters for
Yeah.
Spider Verse as
It
well?
was.
Okay, yes, this movie, um, like it's a summary of the entire movie. Like I think that trailer was made specifically for people that like cannot handle any kind of bad things happening to dogs.
Yeah.
Like it literally, for those of you that haven't seen this trailer, it opens up with this guy getting this dog as a puppy, with the puppy's inner monologue voicing over it. It shows their years together, and then it shows the dog getting lost, and then trying to find its way home. And then it runs into a mountain lion. Next thing it cuts to is, oh, him and the mountain lion are friends. Like, it shows an avalanche. It's like, oh, the dog saved the guy from the avalanche, and then they
That
help
part was
drive
fucking
them
ridiculous.
farther. And then it literally ends with the guy, really sad on the side of the road, and then looking down. He's like, no way. And then this dog comes running down the street barking, and it shows a map of the dog's path as it arrives home on screen. Like every theater I've been to has laughed at that trailer for just showing the whole movie. And I know it's a movie that's not out as of the time I'm recording this. I doubt anybody's going to care about that one.
We will
But
not be reviewing it. Just to be
no, we won't.
clear.
But like stuff like that is really frustrating to me. And
Hmm.
like also as somebody that really loves the visual aspect of movies, there's a lot of shots that I don't want to see before I'm in a theater watching them. They wouldn't necessarily be spoilers, but like
That's
shots that
fair.
I would have adored to see for the first time when sitting down in a theater.
Hmm.
And like, this is another Spider-Man example, but like when Civil War came out,
Hmm.
at the end of every trailer, it showed Spider-Man, with Cap's shield landing down, and like, obviously that's a major money shot for a trailer. Like
Yeah.
Spider-Man's in the MCU, stealing Captain America's shield. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
something people would be very excited about. But like I can't imagine how crazy a crowd would have gone on opening night
Mm-hmm.
if that hadn't been shown ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like I try to watch trailers for movies that I'm really anticipating less and less these days. Um, I know so far I've watched both Godzilla King of the Monsters trailers. I'm gonna try to not watch any others
Mm-hmm.
because it does seem like the movie is basically a remake of the original Godzilla versus Monster Zero, and you get the whole. Eventually, they haven't shown it yet, but you get all four of the monsters together. I do not want to see that before I'm in the theater watching the movie,
And
and they're gonna have to show that at some point. Um, so like I know it's like a not really typical spoiler, but it's something that I personally
mm-hmm.
really would prefer to see, in theater instead of having seen it a million times in marketing materials first.
Well, and that's a good point. Like, that's something I didn't consider, that a spoiler, and because films are multiple levels, right? You've got your narrative, and then you got the audiovisual aspect, which is some films are almost primarily appealing because of the audio or the visuals. So to spoil a set piece or a specific shot or something like that is like super important. Like you said, like even I worry about the new Godzilla trailer, that maybe there was a few too many awesome shots in the trailers that would have been cool to be saved for the movie. But I think that brings me to something else you got me thinking of. Then I think there's maybe an audience aspect, like a audience responsibility, I guess. Like, companies are going to market their products, and
Oh yeah.
if you go and seek out every single clip and every single trailer and watch all of them 100 times, and then
Oh
feel
yeah.
like there was a little bit too much stuff shown to you, it's like, I'm not going to defend
Oh.
them putting a specific moment in a trailer, but
Mhm.
like just that overall feeling, that's on you. Just let the marketing reach you as it comes, and don't go
Mhm.
seek it out, because it's not intended to be done, like, consumed that way.
Yeah, and that's something that I have made a point of doing. But I know like also sometimes just with the way like fan communities are, like
Mm-hmm.
screen grabs, clips,
Mm-hmm.
like fan art and stuff can like kind of perpetuate some of these moments in marketing
Mm-hmm.
way more than they're kind of intended to be seen. I definitely do think there is an audience responsibility, like with not watching everything a million times. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean that's just kind of like it's a conflicted thought that I have because it's like I want movies to be successful, especially movies I'm looking forward to. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times showing those moments are
Mm-hmm.
what's going to get people into the theater um, to see them. So it's kind of tough, to judge sometimes what you should watch and what you shouldn't.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. So like, I guess we'll talk about then. You mentioned Amazing Spider-Man 2. Let's talk a little bit about movies we've had specific parts spoiled for us and how that affected how we watched the movie. Like you said, you were waiting for that scene the entire time. I've got a little bit of a interesting story, because it's so I avoided all the Force Awakens, like as soon as a review borrow came out, basically a week before the Force Awakens came out. I went into shutdown mode. I turned off all the internet and everything like that, and I was good. And then I sat down in the theater to watch the movie, and I like opened up Twitter to basically say, like, tweet like about to watch Star Wars finally, and I saw like straight up on my feed someone it said Han Solo dies. So,
Oh, oh,
but
I would have been
people
furious. Like,
but the thing is, like, I'm always skeptical because people fucking troll. Because I've read
yeah,
spoilers
okay,
before
yeah,
that aren't true. So
yeah,
it wasn't like a spoiler. I was like, okay, they could be full of shit. But then I spent the whole movie wondering, A, will he die or won't he? And then B, constantly, like, every single time Han Solo's on screen, is this it? Is he gonna, like, just. And I still enjoyed the movie. And I wouldn't even say it diminished my enjoyment of it, because I still didn't know for sure. But it made that a focus of my brain, and did affect how I interpreted that whole and you only get one shot at seeing something for the first
yeah.
time, right? Which is a big part of
And,
spoilers.
and that's kind of my thing on it. Like, I don't think. getting spoiled on stuff, like especially with like classic films. There's a lot that I've seen, well after, movies that are 30, 40 years old, that I didn't, see till, I was in college or something. I've had plenty of moments spoiled for me. I still love those movies, but like, especially with like new releases, like, and people always, call out this BS study that, oh, it doesn't diminish your enjoyment, but like the type of enjoyment you get from experiencing a story for the first time is very different from how you would on a rewatch. Because on a rewatch, like when you've already taken in the story for the first time, you can kind of see elements of foreshadowing, elements of symbolism, and how the themes like come together, and it's a really fun experience, like rewatching a movie like that. But like when you get spoiled on something, like, and you're like you said, you get paranoid about it the whole movie, and you're just thinking about that like one. You're thinking about that one specific thing. You kind of become blind to all the other stuff that would normally come on a rewatch, as well as like ignoring a lot of the other stuff that you would be paying attention to on the first time. It just is a very different viewing experience, I think.
Yeah.
One thing that I have seen lately is people really not having any respect for, like, the weekend a movie comes out. Like, people are like, okay, it came out Thursday, it's Sunday now, everybody's seen it. Like, maybe give it a little bit longer than that.
That's a perfect segue, because so what I've got up here, we're going to create a very short official SDGC spoiler manifesto. Okay. We're going to create just 2 or 3 rules. We're going to try to make a definitive declaration on some of the laws surrounding spoilers. So you jump right to this. So we'll talk about the statute of limitations for spoilers. I'll just throw it out there. My argument is a lot of people can't see stuff in theaters. So at the bare minimum, you should not be publicly discussing spoiler elements of a release until it's available on home video. And even then, I would say you should have a little bit of a grace period beyond that. So
I agree. And my personal one is a bit stricter, but I think I think it's a good one until the sequel is announced. If it's something that's going to be like a multi-entry thing. Because when a sequel is announced, obviously it's going to take major story elements from the first one. And, at that's the point when trying to dodge spoilers from a previous movie in a series will impact any kind of discussion of the next one. So like that's the point where I think it goes from being being sensitive to people that haven't seen the movie yet to, okay, well, people have seen this movie, they want to discuss the next one. It's kind of on me to see this movie at this point. That's usually where I stand on it.
Okay, but I mean, a lot of movies don't get sequels.
Yeah, a lot of movies don't get sequels. So
let's say, well, I guess if a sequel is announced, it's either announced directly after the movie gets released and is a huge hit, or I would say it's announced within a year. So could we say a year is a fair?
I'd say that's fair. I mean, an interesting case recently is with Split and then Glass getting announced.
Yeah, I got spoiled by that because it was out on Blu-ray for like 2 weeks. And
2 weeks, yeah.
And I was like, fuck.
Because that was a movie I saw it on a whim. Opening night. It was a night I was working till like 9:30 at night. There was a showing at 10:05. I was wide awake. I'm like, I'll go see this. I was in there with a bunch of like 13-year-olds. And then the music started in the last scene. And I'm like, this is familiar. And then you see Bruce Willis and you realize it's in the Unbreakable universe. And like, it was such a cool moment.
I just want to point out that we just spoiled Split on the podcast.
Glass comes out next week.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I didn't feel bad about spoiling The Force Awakens.
the sequel has been announced. So
Yeah.
that's my
Mm-hmm.
Split's also a very good movie in its own right, and like that's honestly it is the last scene of the movie, but it feels like a
Mm-hmm.
post credits tease
Yeah.
more than like the crux of
And
the story.
so I'll just preface this in case anyone hasn't seen Split. I'm just gonna go a little bit further into that. Just so if you haven't seen it, you might just want to skip ahead like 30 seconds. But I did get spoiled on that. It's all I knew is that it's set on in the Unbreakable universe, and like you said, it was basically just a post credit scene, so it didn't hurt. Like the movie stands on its own outside of that. I was thinking
Yeah.
like, at the Bruce Willis is gonna come in and like punch the shit out of
Yeah.
James McAvoy and like save the day or something like that. I thought it was gonna be like this big heroic moment and this big holy shit, but it was just like an end thing. Like so, yeah, that didn't.
Yeah. So like that is an interesting case where the sequel announcement was kind of so short after the movie came out that it because I know a lot of people that were in the same boat as you. They hadn't seen the movie, and like that's also one of the rare cases where people had been incredibly well behaved with not spreading that around. Like the most I saw is like people were like, if you see Split, see it with people that really love Shyamalan movies, because they will really enjoy it. That was the closest thing I, had heard to any kind of hint that there was, anything like that in the movie. And there was a lot of people that were in your same boat that hadn't seen it. Like, so like I think that's a really fascinating little case of.
And I would actually argue they maybe did the announcement so short after it hit home video. I think that got a lot of people to watch Split. I know it pushed me to watch it.
No,
like,
yeah,
I was like, I'll watch this
I think
someday.
it definitely did.
And then I was like, I went out and bought because I only had Unbreakable on DVD, so I went out and made sure I upgraded to a Blu-ray. We watched Unbreakable, watched Split. They got me. So congratulations.
And Glass is out in a couple. It's either next week or the week after. It's soon. As of the recording of this.
I want that to be good, but I'm really worried about that one. Like, once I finally watched the trailer for it after I'd seen Split, I just don't know how it's all going to come together. But, I mean, I'll see it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of rule one. Let's just restate it before we move on to the next one.
Okay. So within this rule, though, we kind of have to. We're just talking about open discussion, like unsolicited.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So unsolicited, open discussion, spoilers, 1 year limitation from time of release.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there. And then I would also, say unless like a sequel gets directly announced, like within that time. And there's information. Well, I don't know.
That falls apart though, because like
that falls apart. I was just also thinking about like the MCU and like Infinity War and stuff, because that's kind of like a whole nother thing with event movies. But never mind. This is just going to be general. Like, there's obviously going to be exceptions to it. All right, let's just move on, because we could probably discuss that one for forever if we.
So the second one. Again, this one might be a little bit tricky, but I think this is interesting and important. Movies that are based on source material, be it a direct adaptation of comic or book, be it based on a true story or true events, or like a biopic. So, is it if these are considered public knowledge, is it a spoiler to discuss, for example, the ending of The Aviator, because I think for a lot of people, myself, I'm usually only vaguely familiar with the events in a lot of these movies, and
so my position on it is if it's based off of a book or is a remake of another movie, something like that, I try to keep that stuff quiet, because I think that's more likely to be a direct because it's a direct narrative. It's not a biopic kind of thing.
That's fair. So you're at the very least you're spoiling the original book or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, when it's like based on a true story and like actually based on a true story, um, it's really hard for me to find to like define
To
that
give a
as like a
shit.
spoiler.
Yeah.
I know there was a whole thing when American Sniper came out, and people were talking about like, oh, I wonder if this is going to show how he dies, or like,
Yeah.
because Chris Kyle was murdered after the fact, and it was like, oh, is this going to be a story of his just his military career, or is it
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about that period after he returned, kind of thing? And people were like, "Oh, you just spoiled the movie for me." It's like, like
Yeah.
he's a real guy. Like
Yeah.
this is a thing that happened. Like I know, and I know it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard for me to consider actual events a spoiler, um, unless it's
Okay.
like a case of surprise, this is actually tying into some like historic moment kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But like when it's like an actual like this is this person's life kind of thing, I really can't consider that a spoiler.
Okay, so rule number two then. We will just continue to group direct narrative adaptations in with
Yeah.
our traditional spoilers. So rule number two: uh, any film or series based on nonfiction events or people, uh, there you can't spoil those.
Yep.
Fair?
Yeah,
They're
fair.
okay. They're out of spoiler territory. And then number three, oh, this is hard to create an actual rule for. So I just wanted to talk a bit about spoiler etiquette, which is, I guess, more how we discuss these things in general. And I would say that even if something follows all these rules, even if the movie's been out for 3 years, I would say it's good spoiler etiquette to always check with someone if they've seen something. It's not required, but it's good
I agree.
etiquette.
I also like it's one thing if I'm having like an open discussion with a few people like on Twitter,
Yeah, that's
like
like
of a
that's
movie
people
that
eavesdropping on you online.
yeah,
That's not on you.
yeah. But like if I'm recommending a movie to somebody
Mm-hmm.
that I think they would like, I'm not gonna go be like, oh,
Yeah.
and this is what happens in this movie. I'm like, hey, I think you'd like this movie. You should check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I usually try not to like give away too much plot stuff if I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kind of having a casual talk about it, unless I'm trying to make like a specific comparison between like how a movie was made or how it handled certain themes
Mm-hmm.
between like multiple like yeah, I mean that's a tough one because I mean there's also like the sense of informal like if you're writing a formal critique and reflecting on a movie, like obviously you're gonna have to go into details and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like in casual conversation, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just don't blurt out stuff unless because I mean also somebody could have heard something and then they might ask you about it and then fine. But like
Yeah.
if you like especially if you're recommending a movie to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so for that one, we'll just say rule number three is simply just be respectful of others. I
Yeah.
think that's
And like
a
also
fair
if
one.
somebody's like somebody that's like me and has a few kind of weird things that they consider spoilers, like
Mm-hmm.
I, would consider certain shots spoilers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're aware of that, just be respectful of
Mm-hmm.
like those people. Like I mean, and I do also want to echo that I am somebody that is concerned about spoilers for a lot of things. However, there is a responsibility for you to moderate yourself. I mean, people
Yeah.
can go out of the way to spoil stuff, but like I also think um there is within people that are, concerned about spoilers, there is a sense of everybody has to share my definition and
Mm-hmm.
not everybody does. So like, I have a lot of mute filters on Twitter, like
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I definitely think there is a personal responsibility on some level, as well as general etiquette.
Okay, so we'll say rule number 4 is audience responsibility. And
Yeah.
let's lump that in with the other one. So we talked about not watching the same trailer 100 times, not watching every single clip. If you're a Godzilla super fan, don't go on the official Godzilla forums 3 days before the new movie comes out because you're putting yourself in a bad spot where you're at high risk of seeing or hearing something you don't want to know. Right?
Yeah.
Take the precautions. You don't need to go into a bomb shelter, but take reasonable measures to remove yourself from the most likely situations where you're going to be spoiled on something. I think that's reasonable to expect
Yeah.
because you can't expect everyone else to walk on eggshells is if they're in a spot that's dedicated to discussing that movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So cool. Okay. Well, I think those are pretty concrete. That's pretty much all I have for the topic. Is there anything else you wanted to add or anything you missed hitting on?
No, I think we covered it. I know you and I kind of have diverged on what constitutes a spoiler or not in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's an interesting topic. Like, if anybody listens to this episode and, wants to, maybe contribute your own rules or you have a different take on anything, let us know. Reach out to us on Twitter, and, we'll talk about it.
And I'm so sorry if we spoiled The Force Awakens or Split for you, but those are those are outside the rules we've established. So that's on
Yes,
you.
those are. And both have sequels coming out this year.
One of them has a second sequel.
One of them has a second sequel coming out this year. Yeah.
So it's all good. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Justin. And
Yeah, thank you for having me.
thank you everyone else who might have watched or listened to this. We don't have a strict schedule for Pause for Popcorn. We're hoping to produce these pretty regularly. So I will just say until next time, have a good day.